All right, so we had a brief executive session at 5:30. It is now a little after 6. This is Monday, April 2nd already. And first thing, sorry it wasn't ready. This meeting is being recorded for cablecast and YouTube presentation by Area 58 Community Access Media. The video of this meeting is not to be considered an official public record. So we've got the town clerk, Tara Shaw, here to talk with us about some updates.
Yes, the update on the codification of our bylaws. So this process started actually back in 2015 when I asked for some information from General Code. And from that time, in February 2017, so it was tabled in 2015. 2017, I revisited the proposal with them because we had an opportunity for the technology grant. So they were able to use the initial paperwork from 2015. And then we were approved to have that project be part of our grant. And so in June, we made our first deposit with them, accepting the contract and the proposal. This past February was the first step in the project. This is an ongoing project that's going to not come to fruition until probably fall of 2020. It's an evolving schedule with several benchmarks that we would like to meet with them.
Can you give a thumbnail sketch of what it is?
Yes, so codification is the process in which laws are organized in a logical way. So over the years, we've had them, our regular municipal and zoning bylaws have been put in chronological order just based on what the next number was. Yep. So General Code reviews and revises our legislation based on their own knowledge of the state laws. They look for inconsistencies. They make sure that what we have hasn't been outdated. So they give a lot of legal counsel that way and suggestions. And it corrects any conflicts and inconsistencies that we have. What they're going to do is organize what we already have in a logical way by topic. It's a systematic code that ends up being put on an electronic platform called E360 that is searchable. It's compatible with our website. It just makes it easier and more organized.
Is it on our computer or is it in the cloud?
It's not on our computer.
Okay. Okay.
It's not on ours, but it will be compatible with our website to be able to, it will be compatible with it.
So we can search it.
Yes, yep. So we've, since February, what happened first was I met in August with 3 members of the Bylaw Review Committee after we agreed that this would be a good project. So 3 members of the Bylaw Review Committee, including Alan Wheelock, the chairperson, and I had a conference call with General Code because we thought it was a good idea to make sure our Bylaw Review Committee happened at the same time as this project, and we didn't want overlapping efforts. So we had a conference call with one of the managers with General Code, and they had all of their questions answered, and they were thrilled at the process and very impressed by the answers that were given to all of their questions. And they were happy that I would be able to help with management of the timelines, including payments of installed payments. So that happened in August. And then the first step, so research, that was the first step, which was me getting all of our current municipal and zoning bylaws to them, including the ones that were in process at the May town meeting. They were in process with the Attorney General. We were waiting for their approval. So the initial installation included the ones that were in process. So I continue to update them with whatever has been approved at town meeting. The Bylaw Review Committee continues to work on revisions, but they don't have to do the little inconsistencies with punctuation and stuff like that. So they were happy with the collaboration efforts. So I sent them our current bylaws as well as subdivision regulations that were through the planning board. And I got approval from Deb, the chairperson on the planning board. She reviewed it and said, yes, those were the most current ones. I actually had to find it in archived files, all of the updated Word documents. So they weren't up to date on our website. Just as a reference, they weren't up to date. So that they discovered that actually. So that was a good help for us. They gave, so General Code gave a table of contents for us to review that showed standard ways of numbering. And I met with the whole Bylaw Review Committee, and I also sent them everything by email and met with them, and we all agreed on the decisions that I made as well. There were several questions, and I said, this is my suggestion, and we reviewed it, and they agreed. What's one of the last things? So I also suggested they gave an option for additional materials to be included. The Bylaw Review Committee and I agree that we would like a quote on the additional materials to be included. I don't know if I have it here. I do have it. So those include an appendix for the special acts of legislation that my office is working on for any historic records that we've had. That was the process I was working on over the years, and now we're going to be able to include it in this project. And even this week, I'm having the Council on Aging person help with indexing that part of it. We're back to like 2008, and these are all for Mass General laws that have been approved over the years that we really don't have any database on those, so it's going to be able to be searched for everybody too, so that's a good thing. So we reviewed the editor, so it was an editorial and legal analysis. It was over 100 pages of a report, and the Bylaw Review Committee and I also reviewed it. So that's stage one. The next step won't be until November. So this was the first step, and we gave them one installment that of the organizational analysis. It was $1,735 out of $9,100 total is the project total. So we gave them the first part of it. The additional technology or functionality, yeah, how much was that roughly? We don't know yet. That's part of it. We said, can you give us an idea of what that would be? Okay, because we still may be able to fit it in under the grant. Yep, so we just had to answer 7 groups of questions, and I had to work collaboratively with Planning Board and Bylaw Review, and we all decided that, yes, we wanted them to give us the quote for the additional items. So it's well on its way. And I'd be happy to give you an email of what they've done, the 100-page
seems like money well spent already.
Yeah.
It's going to be great, I think.
So the fall 2020
yes.
is when it's done?
Yeah, it should be done. Yep. I have a schedule I can send you as well with their different benchmarks that they want.
This is so worthwhile.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great.
I have one last question.
Yes.
The person from the state called about the status of the grant, and I gave them your name. Did they talk to you?
No, nobody's called.
Nobody's called,
I have
okay.
a write-up ready to go, everything I just said to you. I have it.
Okay.
I emailed it to you. And
Apparently it wasn't that important to them, I guess.
did you have to email it to them?
I didn't send them anything. I just
Oh.
gave them your name and number.
Oh, sure, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Were they looking for an update?
An
Yeah.
update.
Status.
So I have it all. I have the
Great.
timelines of when we met with everybody and the first installments, and that
Yeah.
it's in process, and that it'll be, November will be the next benchmark, and that it'll continue to
For
go.
the short amount of money, I think its total is, everything is 15,000, all the databases. It's amazing the functionality that it's going to put out there.
It's been great. It's been great.
Just-
Really.
And the customer support from the company that we are using for our access databases, she's customizing everything for us. And I do have an access background, the software access background, so she gave me the secret way to get in that nobody else would know what to do with, but so I have the trick to get in. So if I can't figure it out, I just call her, and she's amazing. She's great at helping. So she really is customizing our reports for us. Just for an example, I'll just give you one quick example. Our dog license database, I mean, it's not a big money maker for the town. It's been the same at $7 or $10, but we've increased from licensing 350 dogs to like 425 because we're able to track rabies certificates because the state has to send them to us. So it's easy for us to send follow-ups now instead of doing a manual process. So it's literally a command button instead of, you know, searching through hard copies of rabies certificates. So, and people are receptive to it. So.
Very nice.
So that's that for codification. I have one other thing that I wondered if you might, next week or the next meeting that you have, if you can put something on the agenda for something that has to do with Mass General Law, Chapter 51, Section 4, subsection E, and I have copies of it for you. One of our volunteers on one of our boards has asked if we might be able to put certain boards and committee members who would be considered public safety committee. So I don't know if it could be inspectional people that are going on people's properties and having to deal with residents, and they're not super comfortable with their public information being included on our street list and our address list. So we have, for example, police department personnel don't have to be included on the street list, but the Mass General Law actually says the name and address of any law enforcement or public safety personnel who so requests shall not appear on the street list, and such names shall not be disclosed to any person. It really is just the street list that we're referring to, because we all know that it's a public position. But I spoke with the help desk, which is involved with my state computer for census information. They directed me to public records, who directed me to the attorney of the day. And she said that if they qualify as a public safety person, and there's a policy that the selectmen can agree on uniformly. So if they have an option to be told when they get sworn in, do you want to be included? We've always asked them for the website, but we can also say, would you like to not be included on the street list? They can opt in or out for that. But it's up to the selectmen. It doesn't need a town meeting vote. It is a Mass General Law that's already in place.
So are we giving them designation as a public safety official?
Yep, it's called well, not necessarily. It's just on our state computer. It's called a public safety code. So they're just flagged in my system to not show up on the public street list.
Okay.
Like, for example, I'm not allowed to give any census information out, but we do have the public record of the street list they're sort of tied together, but it's really just the public record aspect of it.
So would, say an assessor goes onto the property,
Yeah.
would that be a public safety?
I'll find out which departments other towns are
Okay.
doing this
Yeah, if you could give
for.
us a sample list, that would be good.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find other towns that use this, and these are the last page is the
Thank you.
Mass General Law that has what I'm referring
Yeah,
to.
good to know who's covered under this.
So are those the two issues, whether we want to offer this option?
Yeah.
And who?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, and so if I can figure that out by the next time you meet, and you can decide whether you want to or not,
Okay.
that would be great.
Can we put you on the agenda for next week to talk about
Sure.
this?
Sure, yep.
All right, thank you, Tara, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How would you like that
would be
listed for you to be
4-9.
talking about?
Okay, urgent removal
Public
bylaw
safety
draft.
code.
Just the
Well,
public safety
yeah.
code, we'll do
We
it like
actually
that.
Yeah,
had
public
a
safety
really good week
Okay,
on
thank
that.
you. You're
welcome.
On Saturday, Linda Letty, Rick Burnett, Brian Wick, Marta Nover, and myself met. We spent 4 hours going over the thing, and I think we came from maybe 90% agreement to maybe 98% agreement, coming pretty close to balancing what I think are three pieces. One, we certainly want to protect the town. Two, we don't want to hassle people with little stuff. And three, we don't want to hassle ourselves with, over too much administration. I think we're really close. I think we have a good list of exemptions so that people don't have to get involved with the small stuff. And I think we're pretty close on having the big stuff protected too. We're going to meet again as an informal subcommittee Thursday night. I think we can probably have a draft by Friday to share amongst the three of us. We're really racing against time at this point because next Monday, or let's see, what happens next Monday?
I want to talk about when we do the warrant, like voting on the
So this will come up
recommendations.
a little bit more, but hopefully by next Monday, we could get this to town council as another warrant article to be vetted within the next 2 weeks. So things can fall apart and we can stumble, but I think we're close enough that we're just going to keep working on it. And it would be great, even if we get some protection and then we refine it over the next year.
Sure.
So
Sounds good.
hopefully by the weekend, we'll have a draft for us to share and look
That's
at.
terrific. Well, thank you all for coming in
Yeah.
on a Saturday to...
It wasn't
To
a
work
pretty
on
day
that.
out there. It wasn't like it was a pretty day.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was beyond pretty. Okay, Fire Advisory Committee establishment.
Okay, so we are going to have what I'm calling a Fire Department Technical Committee, and then the Executive Oversight Committee. And I've taken people who have come forward and verified either with the interim chief or the people themselves. So I'll just read down the list and,
Can you give a brief description of what each committee will be
Yep.
doing?
okay. So the idea is the Fire Department Technical Committee will take the recommendations that are contained in the MRI report.
Typo was in there, I'm sorry. It was like a speed letter writing session.
Okay.
And that's composed of 7 people. Go through the recommendations, try to put them into 3 categories, and most important, important, and least important. Also take a rough swag at what a cost might be. So out of that, we get an idea of where we got to concentrate on in terms of what has to be accomplished most important. So that's the technical committee. The oversight committee is composed of people from the town, the businesses, that have a vested interest in how this all works out at a town level. And so part of that will be working with, when we talk to Halifax, to make sure that we're touching on all parts of the town, not just fire department internal organization, but how it affects places like Cisco, light control, etc. So, okay, can I read down?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the I'll give you a copy of this. Executive Oversight Committee is myself as chair, Brad Cronin, Newport Fire Department, and also a teacher at the Fire Academy. Phil Curran, our interim fire chief. Rick Jordan, Vice President of Operations at Cisco. Jim Mulcahy, our highway supervisor, but also a retired fire captain with 25 years of experience. Andrew Norton, who's current Plympton firefighter, and Catherine Shepard from the Finance Committee, who is also a CPA. So that is the composition of the Oversight Committee.
Good group.
The Technical Committee is composed of 7 people. I'll just read off the ones who are in, who have fire experience, because the intent was try to get people who either have current fire experience or previous. Steve Winslow, who was the former Plympton Deputy Fire Chief. Mark Wallace, former Plympton firefighter, now retired. Douglas Reese, former Plympton firefighter. Jeff Montello, who is a former captain of the Sea Pines Forest Beach Fire Department at Hilton Head and a paramedic, retired. Steve Heath, Duxbury firefighter. Sean Gunderman, who's the current Plympton firefighter. And lastly, Elise Lyons. Elise is a former wage and personnel part of the board. She was a manager of Ocean Spray. What she brings is an analytical approach to looking at issues, and she's also willing to act as our liaison to drive a grant program for anything to do with fire as she gets involved. And the thinking was, while she doesn't have fire experience per se, she brings sort of like what Catherine Shepard brings, the numbers piece. How do we analyze this? How do we make sure that we're staying on track? So that's...
a long-time town resident, too.
Yes, 34 years, she told me, so unless somebody has some pushback, that's the committee's.
No, I served with Elise on wage and personnel for a short period of time, and she's really, very savvy and good at numbers, and I think she would be a good addition, even though she doesn't have direct fire experience.
So what I would like to do is start this so we can get appointments made, okay? And next week I'll call
Well, are we going to make appointments? Because then these are going to be posted meetings. Did you
Well-
want to just...
Oh, I thought I had to.
No, I think we were just going to do it as...
You might want to do just where the public is following this. I'm wondering if for the tech committee, maybe keep that at a technical level and not do appointments. But I think for the executive committee, you might want to make formal appointments.
Okay.
And then when the committee's done, when it reaches its natural end date, you can disband the committee.
Well, there
But-
would be tremendous interest in
Yes.
the future direction of the department, so
right.
that makes a lot of sense. But this is going to be, looking at the MRI
Really down in the
report,
weeds.
prioritizing.
Yep, exactly.
And,
Did you
I mean-
end up with a chair on the technical committee yet?
I was going to chair the first meeting and then see where we come out of it,
okay,
okay?
all right. So, really, we could do both of them, but there would be public meetings, but not necessarily public input, where the meetings would be held in the public, but it's not necessarily, these aren't hearings, they just are working in a room like we
Yeah,
are.
there's the working
People
committee.
can sit there and
Sure.
observe,
Sure,
but
they
they're
can
not necessarily soliciting input.
So speaking of the devil, let me introduce Elise Lyons and Jeffrey Montello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking about the appointments, and you're both interested in serving on the technical committee, looking at the MRI report and kind of digesting that, prioritizing, and getting us working on the issues that need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And
Yeah.
Yes.
all right.
We feel that we're retired, we have the time, and hopefully we can do some of the tedious stuff during the day to help others.
That's true.
It's great, and we appreciate the
Absolutely.
service so much.
Well, we're not there yet, so wait. Let's see if you want to thank us.
If we're still talking in 3 months, we'll...
That's good. That's a good thing.
Will these go until until it's dissolved? How are you going to do this?
Not the technical then.
The executive probably would be dissolved once a decision is made about what direction we head in. But the technical is probably something we want to keep just to make sure that we're always on track. Players may change, they may come in and out of it, but we're going to need to make sure that as a town department, we're always heading in the right
So
direction.
this will go from 4/9 until dissolved?
The executive oversight would be until dissolved, and then the fire department technical committee would be, I don't know if those would be annual appointments where,
You'll go from now
I
until
think
June
we would do it
30th.
the same as we do with the bylaw committee.
okay,
I mean, it's,
I think
Yeah.
bylaw was annual appointment, where they can say if they want to continue to serve on it.
So that will go from 4/9 until 6/30.
How about 6/30,
I think
2019?
it's
We can?
every year. I don't think you can do that.
we'll make it,
That's
Make a year
yearly
from
thing,
today.
and they, you can't do that either.
like,
That's, every appointment, every committee, it's always on.
They all
Tara's
expire
thing
June
from June
30th?
30th.
okay, make it through June 30th,
All right,
and then
and
we'll
then
just
we'll-
reappoint
Then
them.
they'll have, when they go into her, it's just when I do the appointments slip.
Okay,
Okay,
So I want to call it technical.
fire department technical committee.
Very
use
good.
this
Yeah,
and use this.
and you, very good.
Okay.
I will have them ready.
All right, so we'll make the appointments next week, or do you want to make them now, and then we can just sign them next week?
I think we just make them now, unless there's
Okay.
a reason.
Are you ready, Mark, to make the appointments?
Good.
Okay, so for the Executive Oversight Committee, this will be effective today until dissolved. John Trainer, Brad Cronin, Phil Curran, Rick Jordan, Jim Mulcahy, Andy Norton, and Catherine Shepard. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Fire Department Technical Committee, this will be today until June 30th, 2018. It'll be Elise Lyons, Sean Gunderman, Steve Heath, Jeffrey Montello, Doug Reese, Mark Wallace, and Steve Winslow. All right, do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do you have copies of the study?
Yes, we
Okay.
printed them down.
Okay.
Well, 134 pages of it.
Nice,
And it
easy
took
reading.
Walmart to get a new ink cartridge.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
it's really well-written. Okay, perfect.
Your
So I-
appointment slips will be get drawn up, and I'll give them to the clerk's office,
Okay,
and then you'll have to see Tara during her office hours, and both of you get sworn in,
okay,
okay?
all right. But we're here to just sit through a meeting, too.
Sure,
Okay, good,
Yeah.
absolutely.
good.
Jeffrey's not familiar. I've been to town meetings, but he hasn't. So
Okay.
We're just here to
Great.
listen to what your song and dance is.
Sure. All right, so the next item is Cory policy for new employees.
I have one of these for everybody.
I have one.
I have one too.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So,
I have that, I just have to locate
I
it.
have two.
Okay.
so we've been looking at our Cory policy, which it appears was last updated in 2015, and essentially proposing to rewrite it so that it's in accordance with what the suggested policy language is that's put forth by the state. So it simplifies a little bit as far as what our policy is. And it also treats, it looked like our current policy had kind of absorbed another state document, which is information concerning the process of correcting a criminal record. And based on the state guidance, that document should be kept separate but referred to, so I've attached it. But I've taken it out of the suggested policy rewrite. And then also too, the state does have fillable forms that we could have people fill out if they needed to have a Cory done. And I would recommend adopting these particular forms. One of the things that's not in here currently that I was thinking we might want to make note of, either in the policy or in the minutes, if you were inclined to approve it, is that we specifically exclude from the policy the Plympton Police Department along with the Dennett Elementary School, just because they're doing their own policies, and they have a lot more that they do in the way of background checks and everything, that we would just be scratching the surface of.
This is
So-
kind of Corey light.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. It's the Corey Light version. And then if we were going to implement this, typically how it works, we would register as a municipality on the state website. And at that point, individual people who the board designates as able to perform the Corey checks, we would register with individual usernames. Now, there may have been some people who were registered before, but we'll need to look at who that is and determine if we want them to continue or if we just want to start fresh.
It was me,
Okay,
and I believe Dale. I had this meeting with Dale,
okay.
but I've only
sounds
done
right.
one. We haven't
Okay.
had Anybody? I
Do
can
you
that
still
now.
have your username and everything? Okay.
I will give it to you
I was thinking that we'd probably want it to be like at least 2 people on our end that are able to run them. So if Bree is already registered, maybe I could register too. There is some new training guidance, which if you want Bree to continue with it, I'll just share with you. It's simple. They just updated a few things. But we could go through that as well. I have that here.
I'll give you my file too that I had, that has all the information from when I started it, and the date and everything.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to continue doing that? Because if you don't, we could probably find somebody else. It's completely up
It
to you.
didn't matter, it was neat, like I said, I did one.
Okay.
I haven't had to do anybody.
But we're going to be doing quite a bit more now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Though I
It was
still,
pretty easy, it wasn't
Yeah.
too difficult.
I like the idea too of having the town clerk because of the nature of the position. We can have 3.
Can
We could have 3.
Yeah.
A lot of places pick 2 or even 3 people. If Bree's already registered, I see no reason why she can't continue with that. And then maybe I can register and we can also get Tara registered, just so that, you know, if it becomes, it lightens the load a little bit, depending on how many we're doing.
And the files were locked in the cabinet and that
The
closet.
secured room? Okay. All right,
That's what
perfect.
they
That
said,
makes
that
sense
you
to
had
me.
to make sure that they were locked.
Yep.
I was like, okay.
So these are just people that we're saying have access to do it under our policy. The police and the school still have their
They're
own
gonna
thing
do their
going,
own thing.
But this is what we as a town will be doing.
Correct. So we could absorb the fire department, for instance, into this particular policy. And then aside from the fire department, because I don't think that they were consistently doing it, so we'll absorb them. I do think that we should check with the library before making any decisions on their behalf, because they're a well-run operation over there, but they kind of do their own thing too, so.
Yeah,
Not looking to step on any toes, just to sort of standardize and professionalize some of the policies.
I think they should come under this too.
I do too. It might make it easier for them if they did.
Why don't we plan that it will, and for now, we only exclude police and Dennett, and then if for some reason they have a whole system in place, then we can revisit it and we could exclude them as well.
This,
Oh, I'm sorry, will that include the Council on Aging?
Yes.
That's how this
It
got brought
certainly
They
up.
would be
It
under
does,
us.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
They would be under
I
ours.
think,
This Corey we're talking about is the criminal offender
I-
record information?
I do
Okay,
know what that
okay.
is. But I have a question. Is there an approval process who dictates for you to even do an inquiry? Like, you could just pick anyone out of town just for curiosity and do a Corey check on them. Is there some kind of approval process
You
that
need
tells
to-
you to do it?
So the policy that the state suggests, and also what in lines with our past policy, you typically would only do it if somebody has signed the consent form, number 1. But number 2, you wouldn't present a consent form to somebody unless they were qualified otherwise for the position that they were applying for, and unless they were a finalist for the position. So say, just to use myself as an example, because I had to have one done to be employed by the town, I was not sent the form to fill out until I was notified that I was one of 2 finalists for the position. So you don't just do it on everybody because you don't want to be accessing people's information if there's no reason to. So you would only do it if somebody, like upon offer of employment, or if it was a case where we had a screening committee and we were narrowed down to finalists, we might want to do it just for the finalists, but we wouldn't do it for every person who applies for a
You
job.
have said yes to me on an approval process, because that person has to sign a consent form.
Oh, yes, yes. There's
And no one is going to do a query check unless that consent form is on file.
Correct. Not only would we not do it without the consent form, that wouldn't be lawful, but also, we wouldn't have the information from the person to run the check. If you'd like, you can take a peek. This is the state form.
Here's an extra copy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All
you can
yours.
use that.
And we're really talking about positions that impact where there's children or
Children or elderly or
Disabled.
disabled, unmonitored
senior
access.
citizens.
But for the amount of employees that you have in this town, would it really be helpful to do one on each new employee? Because they're working with the public.
Right, right, and that's something that you have to weigh out too, because even certain positions that maybe don't meet that criteria specifically with elderly or children, you do have some town departments who have access to people's private property if somebody's coming to your home, for different purposes or whatever. So I don't think that it would necessarily hurt, but I do think right now we should probably keep it just to new employees and not go down the road of board and commission members and everything, because you do get to a spot where it's like, well, at some point, it just becomes, I think, a little bit too much. But as far as...
I don't think we should be doing it for volunteers if they don't have any impact in those areas.
Right.
Right. You think that you should?
They should not.
If they're not,
I volunteer for the Special Olympics, and they have always done query checks on me.
And that makes sense because you're dealing with disabled,
Right.
yes.
So are we thinking of, I love your new one. The old one we did 3 years ago, and that was an improvement over, I think, the nothing we had before that. Yours is so much simpler, so much clearer. Are we thinking of adopting this tonight?
If we could, it follows verbatim the state suggested guidance. There were just a few spots that I inserted, Town of Plympton.
I'd be glad to make a motion to approve Liz's new version of the query to replace the one we did 3 years ago.
all right, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Good,
done.
great. This is a good example of simplifying. The codification we talked about earlier is going to simplify, and it's helpful.
Very helpful. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have town meeting report.
So we closed the annual town meeting warrant at the March 26th meeting, effective at 8 p.m. So all of the articles are in, and we do have a placeholder currently for the earth removal bylaw, if that comes to fruition. Otherwise, everything is fairly well settled as far as the annual town meeting warrant. Looking back at what you did last year as far as timing, what I would suggest for your consideration would be at our next meeting on April 9th, FinCom is coming at 7 p.m. And I did send something to Nate just confirming that they are coming to let us know where things stand with the budget and kind of give us their view of everything. So I was hoping that also on that same evening that the board could take the votes on the majority of the articles, maybe with the exception of the earth removal if we don't have it yet, as far as whether or not you recommend it, so that I can begin filling that in on the warrant. And I would also like to be at a spot, ideally by the 9th, where I can send the warrant to town council, just to give it a once-over, and then looking at you signing the warrant and it being finalized for the April 23rd meeting. And that lines up with what you did last year. Last year you signed it on April 24th. So that would make sense as far as having time for it to go out to print. The only thing I would note, there were a few articles on there, one in particular for Council on Aging that I think might warrant some further discussion before you take your vote as to whether or not you recommend it. And I'd also be curious to hear what FinCom thinks. And I was wondering if it might be wise to invite Joy Marble to our meeting, maybe at 6 PM on the 9th, and just get a little bit of clarification as far as the article for the new van, and also for her hours. And if they have a 5-year plan or even a 3-year plan, I think we want to be part of that and just know where they're going, not just financially, but also even housing their whole operation in their little space down the hall. I think we're going to have some questions come up over the next year plus as far as where they're headed. They seem like they're almost outgrowing their capacity here. And now there is the warrant article for the new van. It's for $55,000. And I was trying to pull some background info from the town accountant's office. I think that they were under the impression that the van that they currently have was still in its usable life. So we just have some questions, and the article came in for the van right at the last minute. It was on the 26th.
Okay.
So I just think we might want to see if she's available, just to answer some questions. And that way you can make an informed decision.
Well, and she probably hasn't even discussed this with the finance committee, has she?
I don't believe so, because it's not part of the budget. It came through as a warrant article, not part of her budget presentation to them. So they are aware of it, from my understanding, but they have some questions and concerns. So I just think it might be good to get some FaceTime with her, if she's available. If not, you know, we can go with the best information we have at the time, but...
Yeah, I feel like this may well be very worthwhile, and they're trying to do great things, but we had no discussion whatsoever.
No, we didn't know this was coming.
No.
Yeah, and whether there's time, again, that's another one. If there's time to get this done this year, we're really racing, and we want to make thoughtful decisions on this. So I hope she can come in.
We can invite her tomorrow and try to give her some notice, and hopefully she's available for,
I would think, yeah,
for that evening.
She has to come in, because we don't understand operationally. All of a sudden, we have now 3 people that 2 of them are under a grant. But, you know, is that a continuation that's going to go on? I would like to know operationally where this is going.
Well, that and
2 years ago, we didn't pay anybody.
Right.
3 years ago, 2 years ago.
For the director's position, wage and personnel did make the stipend a range. And I believe in the budget request, they put in for the high end of the range for the $10,000 amount to add an extra day on per week for Joy, for the director, which I'm not saying that it's not reasonable or warranted, but it would be nice to have a little more information just about where they're headed and how we might be able to help them get to where they want to be.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Good.
Yeah, let's bring her in.
Okay.
Do you want me to contact her? Or
Sure, that would be good, if you could contact her for the 9th at 6. And then we have the standing appointment with FinCom at 7 PM on the 9th. And then I was hoping that after that we could have you take the votes as far as your recommendations on the articles. But then we do have to talk about timing with the earth removal and council's review, and how will play out.
Yeah, and we hopefully will have it all next Monday, and we can come close on it. So if we're going to vote next Monday on all of these, can we just run through them quickly? There are a couple that probably
Absolutely.
would like some information on ahead of time.
Sure.
I don't want to prolong this. But,
No, that would be helpful too, because if I don't have the information for a particular one, I can chase it down between now and
most of them
then.
are pretty straightforward. I think I had questions on 3 or 4 of them.
Okay,
Want to just go down the list?
sure.
You have a list?
I don't have that particular
I don't have that
draft.
document, yeah.
I've got one,
All right.
but
Okay, no worries.
Do you want to make
We
copies?
can share.
We
I
can
think.
share.
Yeah?
Okay.
You want to lead?
Do you want me to go through, or do you want to
Yeah,
go
sure.
through and pick out?
Or I'm glad to, Articles 1, 2, and 3, I think are very clear cut.
4 is the
4
budget.
is the budget. 5 is the financial audits, it's pretty straightforward. 6
Is chapter 90.
And then we come to Article 7, which is a substantial amount for road construction.
So with the roadway article, and I can obtain more information about this, but Barbara and I spoke today. She's actually looking to see if some of that, she wants to change the funding source for it. So she's looking at moving a few things around between free cash or capital. So she's still looking at where that makes sense to come from.
I believe, before we go further, though, I believe last year it was done with the Finance Committee. And I feel uncomfortable not knowing their recommendations before we recommend it.
Oh, well, we're going to at 7 PM on the 9th. I think
Right,
Mark
so
just
I'd
wanted
rather-
to know what we need more information on.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking us to vote on it.
No, not
Okay.
tonight.
Really, what I want
All
is
right,
just
all right.
what to chew on
Okay.
this week, and so that we're not suddenly...
So number 7
So
is,
number 7, we want more info.
Well, and is that part of the CIP plan, which I believe it is?
I believe it is as
That it
well.
was to do 250 every year.
yeah,
to
but
address
last year we
road
did
issues.
200 because we
Didn't have the
felt
money.
didn't have the money.
Right.
And Barbara wanted to look at changing the funding source.
Yeah, she wants it
Maybe
on free
multiple
cash.
funding sources, or?
She was
No,
looking
free
at
cash.
Okay,
just
free cash?
moving it
Okay.
from free cash.
Okay.
All right, so Article 8 is the housekeeping CPC one we do each year. Article 9 is it actually will be our the Board of Selectmen article
Yep.
on the old townhouse. 10 is the 20,000 limit for Recreation Commission, so I don't know anything about this one.
I think it's revolving. This is just something we
Yeah.
do every year.
Okay.
It allows them to reimburse up to that. They may not have, they get money in from different,
The sign program we
Yeah.
have and pays.
Great, okay. This is the real property valuation report. There's 11, and 12 is the centennial real property valuation. 13 was for more title work, which seemed really worthwhile, a very small amount of money.
yeah.
14 is the zoning bylaw, the new zoning bylaw.
Recommended by the bylaw review committee and actually the board of selectmen, right?
And 15 is probably same.
Yep.
Yep.
16 is our marijuana moratorium. 17 is the citizens petition
Correct.
that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, we can talk about that next week.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
We can talk about it now if
Planning
you want.
board's doing the public hearings on the marijuana moratorium and the citizens petition. They're having their hearing on the 9th too, so maybe Deb can stop by.
what time is their hearing?
6:15, so
Okay,
they
so-
should be
Yeah.
done, and maybe they can come here for 7 and just
Yeah,
let
I'd
us
love
know.
yeah. I'd
report.
very much like to hear how
Yeah.
that went before this sort of spot zoning thing is,
Well, actually, why, would we recommend a citizen's petition?
actually, that's a good point.
You do, and usually also Finance Committee does. It's one of those strange things where when you go back in history to how towns vote and put together their warrants, because it used to happen in Walpole all the time that certain FinCom members especially would kind of shy away from the zoning stuff because they didn't like zoning, they didn't want to deal with it. But by law, you're supposed to make the recommendation favorable or unfavorable, or sometimes they would just have like a neutral vote. They would all abstain if it was something that they didn't understand or didn't feel like they had a standing in.
We didn't do it, years back. In fact, the Finance Committee also bypassed on a lot of these.
You
And
can
it's only in the
bypass-
last year or two that we've actually started to recommend or not recommend.
You
Almost
can
every article.
bypass it, but you should go on record as bypassing it, and just not doing anything isn't
Okay.
really the process.
Okay, so,
This article is indicative of a bigger issue we have, though, which is that we have zoning laws, but they're not being enforced.
right.
And so we have to deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. The sort of spot zoning changes are tricky in what they imply.
You know, this one especially, because the zoning was changed in the sense that they're doing this. You know, it's residential agricultural, but that's not what they're doing.
Right, and I believe that they were required to bring this to town meeting by this year in order to continue doing what they're doing, and if it doesn't pass, they have to cease and desist.
Yes, but it wasn't as clean as that. I mean, I don't know.
They do have an engineer that they're working with who helped them put this together. So something interesting to note for citizens petition articles, and Tara and I were laughing about this, you have to publish it in the warrant and in the legal ad that went in the paper, exactly how they wrote it on the
Right,
paper.
can't change
like,
it.
even if there's a typo,
Right. Yep.
like typo included, like you have to run it exactly as that. They did submit some supplemental information, so we made sure that that's on file at Tara's office and at the planning board office, as far as like the map and everything. And both Tara and myself alerted the individual who's representing them that they were responsible for the abutter notifications. We told them, you know, you have to go to the assessor's office, get a certified abutters list, because it involves an actual change to the zoning of a particular parcel, so you could be affecting abutters, and that sort of thing. So they are aware fully of everything they need to do.
But that's sort of the mechanics. The real issue is, if this was any place else in town, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
The fact that it borders Halifax, and therefore it doesn't really affect but you can't have people going in and spot zoning neighbors.
No?
I mean, that's the issue.
I mean, I'm really sympathetic to what they need, but I'm just concerned about the precedent that we're setting.
Well, I think I would vote for this because it's going to clean up an issue.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and that's why we've got to get the enforcement into the zoning, which is part of what the bylaw committee is putting in.
Yeah.
And then I think we can start having the wherewithal to go back to people and say, you can't do this.
To address the issues,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get Deb in to report on plan.
Yeah, I can mention to her if she could just please come here to let us know how they voted on
That'd be
those.
Yeah.
Do you want that as an agenda item?
Well, we're gonna be doing all of them, so no, she can just come and speak up when.
Right, as a town meeting report. That's what we're doing today.
Right.
Yeah.
So 18 is the first payment on the police patrol vehicle, lease loan.
Correct.
19 is a continuing payment on the fire pumper, I believe.
Correct.
20 is, the new phone, a new phone system for the Dennett.
So for Article 20, Barbara also had me add that to the special town meeting warrant. It's possible that they have their own funds and we can just move some money around, and that we don't need to appropriate another 31,000. So we're gonna have it in both places, and then we'll pass over whichever one we don't need.
Okay.
Sounds right.
So the next three are wage and personnel board stuff that they dealt with, I think it was last week, and they're just cleaning up some technicalities. 21 is sort of clarifying sick leave. No real change there. 22 was fixing vacation. There's some kind of issue that people might have to wait a year and a half for
Take
vacation.
right.
So they cleaned that up. 23, you may want to speak to, because I think this is wage and personnel.
Correct. It just made it so that it outlines an actual hiring policy now. And we talk about that we'll post positions in-house for 8 business days. And then depending on, the pool of applicants or the type of position it is, then I'll advertise outside. And it also talks about how I can essentially gauge based on what the position is, like what means we want to use for advertising it. So for certain, like a management position, we might want to go on MMA, whereas a non-management position, maybe we just put it in the newspaper and on the website and those kinds of means.
So the last three, I had a couple questions on. So 24 is the,
That's the Council on Aging ban.
which we'd like to get more information on. 25 was 15,000, for the personal protective equipment.
Correct. So last year, they requested roughly 45,000, and town meeting funded them at 30,000. So this is the remaining 15,000 to replace the
Yeah. And
expiring
This has come up
PPE.
each year. They wanted it all at once. We've spread it out over time, so that one's. 26 is earth removal that we talked about earlier this evening that we'll keep racing to get done. And 27 was to adjourn. Yay!
Yeah, this looks like a pretty small warrant.
It really is. Normally, we have something like 40.
Now, if there is money left, I know that public safety had to take the driveway access off the table. Would it be possible to add money to, was that a warrant article?
There was talk at one time of doing it. The trouble is, it's expensive. It's anywhere from 100 to...
Oh, it's that much? We're not going to have that much
400,000.
money left.
Yeah,
I
it
thought
wasn't-
that it was going to be less than
Yeah,
that. Okay.
It's a big deal.
Okay, all right. Not enough.
Okay. Thank you. It was just good to have that information to think about until next week.
Oh, you're welcome. So that was good. All right. Liz, do you have any updates for us?
So it was just the warrant stuff, which we've covered. I was looking more at the highway superintendent position and advertising and kind of the calendar for that. I'm thinking that we should advertise late April, and then put together the group of people that we talked about, and get interviews going like later in May, and then ideally to fill the position for the end of June, July 1st timeframe, depending on also if Jim is willing to maybe overlap for at least a couple weeks. That would be good. The Lieutenant Governor came out last week on Tuesday, so that was a nice visit from her, and she was very appreciative for the information on the town, very interested in how we placed the 35% of the tax revenue from the industrial area into the capital fund. She was very impressed by that, and I think she was very impressed by the operation at Cisco overall and everything. So it was good to make a connection with her office. John was there. He enjoyed it too. I think you provided her with a lot of information, and
I was the senior citizen.
All the groups were represented. You had multiple hats on.
For IT, our new battery backups have arrived for the server. So now I'm coordinating with Michael to pick a day where he can switch over the email server and get us up and running on the new system and install the battery backups. The little hang-up is that it has to be when we're here for the most part. I guess it's more difficult for him if the building's closed and no one's at their workstations, but it will also make it so that some of us can't be actively on the network at the time. So we're thinking maybe a Thursday afternoon, and maybe see if there's other stuff that people can work on while he does that, but at least we'll be in the building. I contacted Charlie Seelig in Halifax about the animal control officer position. He said that if we want to get started right away when Frank retires, that as he last knew it from the Board of Selectmen there, they don't care if we want to just be independent, like the same individual working in both places. He said if we want to go down the road of a formal agreement and that kind of thing, he's not saying that it can't be done, but he was like, obviously, then we'll have to open up more of a dialogue. He had suggested maybe just for the time being, working it out with that individual and saying, hey, want to come work for Plympton for some of your off time, and then maybe going forward, look at a formal agreement. But again, it depends on how quickly you want to move forward with that, but
So the only concerns with that are the van, which I think he wrote to us and said it was still in service, so we're okay on that.
Daily.
But I think he
Yeah,
was
it was
taking
barely.
animals into his own house.
He was.
When that was necessary, so that, and we have no facility, so that's
If
what.
Halifax does have a facility, then maybe we could have some sort of, even if it's just a simple MOU that says that the individual, where it's the same individual, maybe she can use their facilities and,
I thought they were being done out of Lakeville. Am I
thought
wrong?
She was taking the dog somewhere else.
okay, so Halifax doesn't have a
I
facility.
I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
they have a facility.
Okay.
not sure.
Lakeville has a larger operation, so that might,
Yeah, I think
That
that
might
they were
be the
using
case.
another town's
if you'd like, I
facilities.
can reach out to
Why
her,
don't you reach out to
engage her
her?
interest
Yes.
and see, and then
Perfect.
we can figure it out from there. But Charlie's aware of it, and they don't care if she wants to
Pick up some
work
hours
here
working for
too.
us? Okay. Terrific.
And then also, we have scheduled our meeting with Halifax to go over the MRI report and our next steps as far as the fire advisory groups. And that meeting has been established for Wednesday, April 25th at 6 PM, and it will be at the Halifax Town Hall. So we're going to get that posted, and we'll put it up on the website and
Terrific.
Right.
let people know what's happening with that. And that does it for my updates. Do you want to do
You wanna go into
correspondence?
Perfect.
Okay, so speaking of animal control, we have a letter from Frank regarding Best Chevrolet membership. Apparently, they would be willing to sponsor the Plympton van if they can have advertising on it. So he has sent us some schematics.
Jeez, talk about thorny issues.
Quite the artist. So it would say at the bottom of the back of the van, and along the side, and then they will donate it. So I don't know if that's donating a new van or taking over maintenance of the current van.
No, I don't think so. I'm,
Just gonna pass that down for your viewing.
I saw,
I mean, how much would it cost to get a sticker, to get this that put on there that says that?
Well, I'm sure that they'll pay for it, I would imagine.
why wouldn't we do this, though? I mean, if they're going to give us a new van?
I mean, there's no harm.
They're giving us a new van.
I don't
No,
know,
I
it
think they're
says
just
donated
donating.
by.
They're going to allow us, as I understand it, to use it. It's probably for like a 3-year term.
Probably a
and then it goes
Chevrolet
back to them.
van. Maybe, it's a Chevy
But
van.
if it doesn't cost us anything,
I think you gotta find out what they're giving you.
Down the road of advertising.
Yeah, what, the
private
police?
advertising.
hey, we could put council on aging and, you know, just,
Tonight's meeting
Outsource all
has
the
been
stuff.
sponsored by.
yeah.
I think maybe it would be worthwhile for me to reach out to him and say, what exactly are they donating? Is it full use of a Chevy van? Because,
What age is it, too?
right,
Right.
right.
And what, does
And
that
how long?
include
What is the time
maintenance
frame?
of
Are they gonna
it?
come and take it
Right.
back?
How long?
But
Yeah.
you do see this around other towns. I mean, it's not like,
I mean, the
It's
flip
no
side is-
different, honestly, than somebody sponsoring a sporting complex or field with the advertising and everything. I mean, I'm not saying that we would sponsor like fire trucks and police cruisers, but
No.
a van to pick
Just
up
that way.
stray animals,
Well, I mean, we could.
depending on what
The
it is, it
student,
could be a
uh,
good deal.
Rights to the second cut and entrance to the new police station. We could start naming rights all over towns.
exactly. We did
around
kind of
at the
ask
mall.
Cisco about
do.
that.
Sullivan Brothers does it. You see them and they'll transport you.
They-
There's a sticker on the
He says he
window.
gets at least 4 or 5 requests a
Hey, may I
day.
have
But
a
that's
voice?
all right.
I
We
bet
sh-
senior housing,
This is in his
the
town.
senior
Yes.
vans.
Right, and we should.
He's gonna
Yeah, I
be part of
advertised
this.
And now Light Control, if you notice, has Hubble as their signs,
Months.
which is, Hubble's a big company.
Hubble's a real big company.
Yeah, so we should, at the right time, approach both. But you know, the student union driving out of Silver Lake, that used to have whoever the company was that was donating the car that they, you know,
Well, let's get more
Let's
information.
get more info.
Yeah.
Before we shoot it down. Yeah.
I'm not for shooting it down yet, no.
All right, let's get more
It's just not on the
information.
van that he has, right?
Well,
No.
at first I assumed that maybe it was, but now it's talking about donating, so if it's a new,
The van we have
that's a
isn't going to
different
last
story.
much longer.
I thought that was his van. I thought that was his personal van
No.
that he was using.
No, apparently not.
Okay.
All right.
So are you going to talk to Frank and then get a?
Yeah, we'll do
information
some
from
more
Beth?
digging.
Can you confirm that he's still planning on retiring the end of?
Yes.
He is.
Okay, he is,
Bree
okay.
said, Bree received correspondence. He
all right.
is.
All right. Well, it's nice of him to look out for the future of the, of animal control.
There will also
know-
be no report being submitted in behalf of the animal
Yeah,
control
they're
officer?
politely declining to submit an annual report.
Who is?
Animal control?
Frank.
But it would have been last year's incidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take that one offline.
Okay.
While we're on animal control, we did have correspondence.
Oh, it's all in
Oh,
here.
you have it? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, go for it.
Okay, do you want me to do that one
Yeah, why don't you
next?
do
Or-
that one?
And then I have some
Okay.
follow-up.
I'll
on
put
that, I
this
guess.
stuff in the back then. Hold on.
Sorry, I mean.
That's okay.
Take it out of order.
So the first item that we have here was an email from a concerned citizen regarding two very large dogs outside here at the townhouse fire station parking area that chased them back to their vehicle. So they're looking for some sort of resolution to that. Now, it looks like this email was sent to Selectman Russo on March 28th. And interestingly enough, I believe that the same people did contact Bree. On March 22nd, there was a complaint made, and Bree has since spoke to the interim fire chief, and they said that, you know, if it was anything on their end, that it won't happen again. I don't know how much action you deem necessary for this. I didn't realize that this was one of the only towns without a leash law. You know, and not that you want to go down that road, but it might be an interesting discussion as far as maybe for town property or during business hours. If people are bringing in animals, maybe that is something you want to pursue. I don't know.
So the smaller question was, Bree tried to respond to the email from this woman, and I did last week, and it bounced back both times. I checked with town clerk as far as any other contact information. We don't seem to be able to contact this woman. So I mean, and on the specific thing, we wanted a responsive to the concern. So I think I can say her name. So in any event, Cynthia Casey Ellis, please give us some other contact information. We'll be glad to get back to you.
So the interim chief has said it will not happen again, that the dogs will not be.
Correct, if it was dogs like from his people or anything like that.
Okay.
But there are, I mean, it is an animal-friendly atmosphere here. Like several people do bring their animals in and out, so.
Always on a leash in this building.
But usually
always
always on a
on a
leash. That was why I was kind of surprised to hear that they weren't on a leash.
Well, but it was outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, we'd really like to get the details, and that's why I would very
Yeah.
much like to
Yeah.
speak
I
to
tried
them,
everything.
just better understand what the issue even is.
Sure.
Well, we can just hold this for now,
Yep.
and then if she gets back in touch with the town, then we can revisit it.
Perfect.
Let's see here. I had something else here. Okay, let me go back to my order here. Silver Lake Regional School District, dated March 26th, sent a letter to the town treasurer with multiple entities copied, and it's just going over the budget that they have voted on. And our portion is due and payable in 4 equal installments of $589,910.09 each.
That's for next year's budget?
Yes.
Correct.
Assuming it gets approved.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we know the increase, the percent increase?
2.67%.
How much?
2.67%.
That's
Okay.
our piece of their,
That's the entire budget.
That's
the
has
entire-
increased by 2.67%.
So that's that.
so our piece is going to go up more than that.
I'm not sure what our piece
From-
went up, but we can talk about it with FinCom next
Yeah.
week. They indicated that they were comfortable with the budget.
They being,
Our finance committee.
okay.
I think that they got it down a little bit from what was initially presented.
It was. They had asked for a little bit lower than this, but they were comfortable. They had made cuts and they were comfortable with these cuts.
Okay, we also have an application for use of town property for the gazebo area, and this is coming from the Plympton Garden Club and Dave Alberti for Town Cleanup Day. And this does require signature, so I'm going to pass that down there.
When is Town Cleanup Day?
April 21st with a rain date of April 28th.
That seems earlier than usual.
What was Earth Day?
Is it always that day?
It's
No, I mean,
usually-
that sounds perfect.
Before the poison ivy's up.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we authorize the Plimpton Garden Club to use the gazebo for Town Cleanup Day on,
April
let's see,
27th?
April 21st, with a rain date of April 28th, and it will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is a town-wide cleanup, so volunteers, welcome.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I coordinated with fire, police, and Board of Health signed off.
Highway Department.
And highway.
Yep.
Perfect.
And Jim said that he would make people available
Perfect.
for it.
Great.
So,
We have a letter here from the ABCC regarding cannabis and alcoholic beverages, and they are regulating that and discussing that. And Bree is actually going to forward a copy of this to the 3 establishments in town that hold liquor licenses, just so that they're aware of the requirements.
May I ask who Bree is? I'm sorry.
Oh, this is Bree.
Hi, Bree.
it's really Brigitte, but
Thank you, thank you. That's why I thought, I knew your name was that, but they say it Bree, I thought it was someone else in another department or something. Okay,
I
thank you.
wish it was sometimes, right?
yeah. We just don't like Bridget.
We do have the updated list from the town clerk's office as far as what positions papers have been pulled for. Oh, she's got another one. Do you
I
have a
have
more
even more
up-to-date?
updated,
Okay. So if you're interested in that,
you wanna
she
give
has
a quick
updated
report?
copies.
Here, I can do I just did it tonight, so, I've added one position that wasn't included because I didn't realize that there was a vacancy on the Library of Trustees.
Okay.
From last year, there was a failure to elect, so they normally have 6 board members. So that I figured that out this weekend. So on this report, the ones that have check marks have already been certified, and the ones that say returned were just returned to me either today or on Thursday, and I have to still do the certifications. Tomorrow is the deadline at 5 o'clock to return the nomination papers. So as of now, there are 4 positions out of 15 that we don't have any candidates for. So we still have time for write-in candidates if the boards and committees still want to solicit some volunteer. So
So it looks like Board of Assessors, there'll be one opening. Am I reading that right, Tara?
yes, she
Jocelyn?
actually pulled papers but just hasn't returned them yet. So she might return them tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not listed on there because I'm having Tricia accept them in tomorrow.
Okay.
Mine are ready to go.
Okay.
She's accepting them and doing the certification process.
So anybody that has their name on there is pulled papers?
Yes,
But
has
not
pulled,
returned them
yes,
yet.
exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
so Bob Carling for Planning Board has not pulled them.
Has not. He was an exception from
Right.
last year. There was a failure to elect on the planning board, so they appointed him only to the next election, which is this May. So, but nobody has pulled papers officially for that position.
Or the Library Trustees for Dominic Sampson.
Right, or the vacant position from failure to elect from last year. And they've been conducting their meetings without their 6th member since last year. So they haven't even had anybody to appoint.
Right. And no one's taken out papers for Lisa Hart's opening
Right.
on Finance Committee.
Right,
Okay.
and that's a 2-year position. So you can see they're sort of stragglers because of failures to elect or
So
resignations.
tomorrow, 5 o'clock is a deadline?
Yep.
Why don't we put something on Facebook? See if anybody's interested and let them know.
Oh,
that-
I'll do that, because this is also on our website, an
Okay.
update to the nomination papers. If anybody wants any of the election information, under Town Resources on the left-hand side of our homepage, there's an actual link just to elections. And within that link, there's a lot of information, including what positions, and then links to this, links to all sorts of other dates.
Great.
So what I do is use that link and then post it to Plympton Helping Plympton, so people understand where there's
I
updated
can put it on the
information.
town's page too.
Yeah, that would be
Yep.
nice.
And I'll
just
link it
so
to
Yep.
people know
her part
tomorrow
of
is
the
the
website.
deadline. There's still time. You need to get at least 20 signatures certified.
Well, just for tomorrow, yeah,
tomorrow,
yep.
right? To
Yep,
get your
but
name on
again,
the
somebody can do a write-in even after 5 o'clock tomorrow, right up until the
Day of election.
election, day of the election.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
and you don't need a minimum amount to win. It's not like, the number 5 or anything. So
Okay.
it's just majority vote. So
Perfect.
it's not,
Just to confirm, you're good?
yes, I'm on this here. Yes,
Okay.
I am.
You've got your signatures?
I do have my signatures. I'm having Tricia accept it in and do the certification so that there's no conflict.
Perfect. Very good. Well, thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara.
Okay,
That's a wrap.
what about the other dog bite? Or the dog bite?
Presumably.
Is that being handled and
that
investigated
That went
by
to
Frank?
animal control, right?
I saw a copy of it on Bree's desk.
Okay.
It's not in here.
So he's writing up a report on that, right? And he'll have a report for us next week?
Will Board of Health be? No.
So it created that policy in any event last year, I
Right.
suppose, and what should trigger it is him being notified. So has he been notified, or can he be notified that we received an animal bite report?
Yes, that has been, because that came from Board of Health, and
Okay.
it came from Board of Health to myself and
Okay.
went to Frank, and then I forwarded it to the clerk's office, just because they give the dog licenses out. It's
Okay.
nice to see.
Okay, but it went to Frank, has
Went to
received
Frank
as
at
well.
the same time I got it.
Okay,
Let's see what happens,
okay,
I
Okay.
guess.
all right. So hopefully
Put
a
it in the
report will
parking
be
lot.
forthcoming.
Speaking of parking lot, do you want that on next week's agenda, or do you have so much
Is
going on?
next week the first of the month? Is that what we
That's
decided to
tonight.
do?
Tonight.
Did we decide we were going to
We
review it at the
had
first of
talked
every
about
month?
that.
Oh, we did it.
Do you want to do it
we
at,
did
we did it a
weeks
few
Did
weeks
it very
ago.
late
Want
in
to put
the
it at the
month?
end of April, maybe? To give us some time to
Little bit
get some of the
time? Yeah,
stuff
'cause we just
done.
went over it.
We got too much on our plate right now.
Okay.
Do
All
it
right,
at
why
the
don't we put it at the
last-
end? After the warrants close, all
Yeah.
that stuff is
Yeah.
done, then we can review it
I
again.
gotta go back to that. I think maybe someone should talk to animal control and just remind them.
Well, Liz is talking to him anyway about the
I'm
van.
going to talk to him about the sponsoring a van, so
Okay.
I can ask him about the dog
I
bite.
mean, just because the immediacy is, there should be, if there was a bite, there should be a quarantine for
Right, the
10
dog needs to be
days.
quarantined.
Oh, do you have reason, like, you don't think he would,
I don't
would
know, we
the
need to know.
protocol not be?
Well, that's the protocol.
We just need to make sure it's being followed.
Yes,
Okay,
That the dog is currently in quarantine
okay.
for 14 days.
10 days.
10
Do you
days.
want to
Thank
keep
you.
it separate, and I'll do it, like I always do?
If you want to reach out to him, that's fine, because I'm not going to be in the office Wednesday or Thursday, so I just don't want to be gone and then
Why
he
don't you agree,
follows up.
because we need to know that dog's in quarantine.
Yeah.
It'll be the same consistency that we've been doing,
Perfect.
and then I'll CC you on it.
Perfect. And then that'll be a good segue. I can send something and inquire about the van.
Terrific. Okay, so correspondence is done. Dates to remember, we are meeting on the 9th next week, and that's when we're meeting with the Finance Committee, right?
Correct.
And then we're off on the 16th, that's Patriots' Day. We're meeting on the 23rd and the 30th of this month.
Yeah.
All right, I don't think we've got anything new to report on economic development. I don't think we've got anything new on financial management. Public safety?
There are a couple things. The Public Safety Committee met last Wednesday night. We met the principal of APC, our general contractor, seemed like a lovely fellow. This is the performance bond and our OPM? It's too late. I implied this was an incredibly important piece of paper, so I don't know who wants to hold on to this, you
Should
or
be
Bree.
part of the file. He's going to pick that up, I believe, isn't he?
Or did he already get what he needed?
No, I think it's
Is this our
on
copy?
file. This is our copy of
Okay.
it, in case something
With the
goes wrong.
contract.
Should I give it to you tomorrow?
That's a contract?
No, that's a
No, no.
performance bond.
It's a bond.
The performance bond?
Just an important piece
Now,
that we
with-
don't want to
Yeah,
lose.
Is
so
that
we
the
have the file, and then
original?
it goes to,
Because there was an original that needed to go, I thought he said to Colleen Moran.
treasurer.
No, well, what he said was, this is signed and ready to go, and hide it in a ceiling tile. to be
Okay.
exact.
It goes in the safe.
Okay,
Okay.
so you can take that then, Bree, for Colleen.
I'll give that to Colleen, and then it goes, and it gets put in the safe, so like with the other one.
Okay, I'll hand it to you tomorrow.
That's fine.
By hand.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And then the only other thing, they're setting up a project meeting once a month, the major people involved. I'll attend the first one as they get it set up. The issue that did come up that needs attention is straightening out the parking lot, because there will be no parking, nothing back here. We're going to have a real challenge there. There was a brief discussion and a sense that the handicap parking space up at that end would probably have to be taken out so big trucks could get in and out. And so what I wanted to propose is that we agree that town administrator and highway surveyor and police chief, and I'm glad to join them, work on rearranging some of the signage out there and probably redrawing some of the lines. So I think that's probably going to include asking people to park on the far side as much as possible, and probably the town vehicles that sit over there maybe going up closer to the fire station. We're going to need every space. This is going to be a messy year with parking.
Yeah, it will be a messy year.
So I don't know if we need a formal vote, but we wanted town coordinator or town administrator to, and those other town officials to work on
That
that.
sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And I love parking issues, so I'd love to be involved with you
We're gonna
guys.
give you a vest, Mark.
What's that?
So we're gonna give you a vest and a
Some white
wand.
gloves.
Reflective one.
I want one of those orange things, yeah.
Perfect.
You should find out if we have a baseball team this year, okay? Because last year we didn't. And-
At least that's at night, it'll be after deliveries.
Right, but I mean, if we don't have one, then you may consider whether you need to do something with the ball field. But, so
Yeah.
first got to find out whether it's the
I
team.
hadn't thought of that. That's interesting.
Well, they start out at T-ball. And it's
The T-ball is off to the left. It would really be the Little League
the Little
field.
League, and I don't know if we do have a team. The Recreation Commission might be able to help. Andy Carveris, I don't know who's running.
No, he's
these
not
now.
on there any, well, I don't believe he's on there.
I think he's still on it, because
On
I
Pace?
saw Shelley.
Okay.
No, he's on Recreation.
I don't, okay. If you talked to Shelley and
Okay.
she said yes, yeah.
Okay.
Ann White
Yeah.
is, you know that. And then it's,
They are active again, too. Linda Letty's group connected with them and had a
Perfect.
very successful meeting, so they are
Terrific.
Right.
up and
But
running
Pace didn't
again.
have a baseball team as of the cutoff date. They were looking, I think, for only one person, so maybe they drafted somebody, I don't know.
All right.
did we
I'll
merge with
reach out to Adam
Halifax last
Bailey.
year?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if he's still involved in Pace or not. Adam, is Adam still involved in the
I
baseball?
don't believe so, no. no.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't know
There's a
who's.
name we should draft for something.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so grants, I don't think we've got anything new to report. Volunteerism, we have got a bunch of new volunteers, thankfully, serving on these fire advisory committees. So thank you to everyone who has volunteered to help us out on those important projects. Technology. Anything?
Other than the battery backups and
Okay.
the server, nothing new to report.
Okay, all right, kind of along the way of grants, but not really. Our housing production plan is at the state, and we still have not heard back. But I emailed him to confirm that he actually had it, and he says, I do have it. So it should be soon that we're...
One of the things we expect to fall out of the fire committees is that the SAFER grant and other grants, and Elise has offered to help us, as we get more knowledge about what to go after.
There's money out there to
Yeah.
help us. We just need to get organized.
And one of the things the MRI recommended was for the exhaust in the station itself, if we're going to continue to use that, which I think we probably are.
I think we probably are too.
Yeah.
So, good news. All right, so we've got a bunch of minutes. Thank you, Bree, very much. All right, so we start with February 5th.
I have some just nitpicking. Okay.
I have a relatively big one.
Okay,
Go ahead.
what's your big one?
So the big one is under, toward the bottom, the third bullet up from the bottom is about Prospect Street. And that last sentence, I think, needs to be struck. And in its place, I would suggest BOS noted that purchase and sale contains conditions and therefore does not start the 4-month right of first refusal clock. BOS will confirm this with town council. I'll give it to you. Did you get all that down?
So which is one of these, you can submit them all to me.
Okay, why don't we all submit them?
I'll record the rest.
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, so then what I suggested was on the bullet under that, that it was the intention of the school committee to create a special education stabilization fund through the warrant article, and they were hoping if there was excess money available to use it to fund that. So it wasn't, it's not definitely that's going to be established. It's up to
Right.
town meeting whether
Right.
it will be established or not. So just, how about stabilization fund warrant article with funding, or hopes to establish
Okay.
a stabilization
Stabilization
fund warrant, or stabilization fund with funding available from vocational ed. That's what they're hoping to establish at town meeting, is the stabilization fund, the special education stabilization fund, and to use excess funding that they currently have in their budget line to put money into it.
Okay, so maybe we'll just add,
Yep.
that one, we'll give her two.
Okay, and then under, I have roll call, just separating it out as not one word.
Okay.
And then on, under correspondence, what I did was I declared a snow and ice emergency, which allows him to deficit spend that budget line. So I would say CJ made motion to declare a snow and ice emergency,
Made motion
rather than to approve the emergency snow and ice
to declare,
emergency request. You declare a snow and ice emergency, and that allows him to overspend his budget.
okay.
So that's all I had.
See.
We'll put those
Okay.
two
The only thing I would like to see on that is,
Sorry.
on the first part, it says PNS, I'd like to see it spelled out.
Purchase and sales?
Yeah,
Okay.
and on the second page where it says 50K, let's say
50,000?
50,000, so
Okay.
people aren't confused.
I'm sorry, what's on the second page?
50K, but still, you put it 50,000. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 5th as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now we're on to the 12th. So I had the same thing with roll call, just
If I could sub-
breaking it out.
paste.
I know, because you cut and paste.
And actually, I didn't know if at the end, I think generally we put the vote as 3-0.
For,
The going into executive session.
yes, okay.
So
Right, so it
I
does
added-
need the vote, okay,
yeah.
perfect. I had, under updates and discussion, the first one where we were talking about the Atwood property, I would scratch bylaw review committees reviewing the town and sand and gravel procedure and bylaw, because it really doesn't apply. We didn't discuss it then.
Yeah.
And then I would also scratch open space will hire a surveyor to conduct the appraisal of the property, because I don't know if that was really discussed. Because at that point, we didn't know who even owned the property. It would have been premature.
It's in there that I have.
Well, yeah.
What do you have, Mark?
Well, one, it wasn't a surveyor, but an appraiser. I think we should just strike that sentence. I'm not sure it's relevant.
In here, I did have appraiser,
Okay.
but then I figured, oh, they do an appraisal, isn't it surveyed and that's how it's appraised?
The
Yeah,
way I rewrote
that's-
the previous sentence, it wasn't really the bylaw review committee, so I just rewrote it. Linda Letty and Amy Cronin, members of Concom and the bylaw review committee, are reviewing the town's sound and gravel procedure.
Okay. And then what do you have about the appraisal?
As I remember it, I just put it, open space will hire an appraiser to conduct an appraisal of the property.
Okay. How about upon confirmation of ownership or something? Because that was what we were discussing, is there were people that were saying, oh, you know, my mother has parcels in there, and we didn't want to do anything until the ownership had been squared away.
So why don't we say open space could hire?
Could hire, okay. That sounds perfect.
Okay.
All right, and I think that was all I had there. Do you have anything, John?
Yeah, under, let's see, the third bullet down, Old Town House lease was signed by the BOS. It should say, and will be sent to Plympton Historical Society Commission President Jessica Kinsman. And then new members are, scratch Jessica Kinsman, and it's
Okay.
Kathy, Jen, and Lillian.
Actually, that's also, it's not a commission, I don't think. It's just Plympton Historical.
Historical
Yeah,
Society.
take out the word commission, yeah. And on the other, second page, the CPC should just be spelled out.
Okay.
What is it anyways? I haven't-
Community Preservation Committee?
Okay.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Dates to remember, CPC public hearing, Community Preservation Committee.
Okay, so I'll give her this one.
Okay, all right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from 12/12 as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
All right, so now we're on March 12th. All right, so on this one, roll call.
Roll call, vote was 3-0.
I took out this whole thing after administrative leave effective immediately, period, and scratched everything down to a press release will be issued following tonight's meeting.
I agree completely.
Okay. And then I don't know whether we want to attach the press release to the minutes.
I'd say, why not?
Why not?
Yeah,
not?
it's public,
So you're
Public
leaving then
information.
that sentence,
Yeah, we'll
right, about
leave,
the
a press release will be issued following tonight's meeting, and you could put attached or something, see attached,
Okay, so get rid of all of that.
get rid of all that. All right, and then that's all I had.
I didn't have anything.
I got the 3-0 vote in there.
Okay.
Or on the second page, the second bullet point down, I wanted to change that to read MR confirmed earth removal regulation document is being reviewed as a first draft.
Okay, all right, and you've got that in your notes, okay. All right, so make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 12th as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
All right, we're on to the 19th. With this one, I just had moving because 6 o'clock was really the MRI presentation, and moving the appointment down following the presentation.
Okay.
Because that's not the first thing we did. First thing we did was the MRI, so I would just move her appointment down here.
I thought we needed just the first sentence.
We did, but later on in
After
the,
the MRI
It was right
presentation,
now, okay.
right after the MRI presentation.
I thought the first sentence should be CJ introduced the MRI report.
Okay.
And then MR and then JT.
Okay.
And then I had, the study is 107 pages, a page report.
Is it a page or a
Yeah.
date?
107-page report.
Okay. I would break out under that, where it says rev projection, I would spell it out, revenue.
Revenue?
Yeah.
Okay. Rev projection. Change that to
Oh,
revenue.
Rev.
All
Are we
right.
good to go?
Anything else?
If I can read my own writing, police contract documents are not ready and will be reviewed. I wanted to insert, will be reviewed and ready for signing on 3/26.
Okay. All right, so make a motion to approve the minutes of March 19th as amended.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, last but not least, the 26th, roll call.
I'm not gonna cut and paste again.
All right, and probably add the 3-0, add the vote.
Oh, geez, look at that. So on the first bullet, I wanted to strike the sentence, the second sentence, which read, "The bylaw committee would like all applicants apply to the
Yeah,
Board of Selectmen."
I agree.
Da. And then the next sentence after that, there may be conflict with agricultural mass law. So those two sentences.
Okay, scratch both of those, okay.
And otherwise, I'm good.
I just had the addition of the vote, approved letter to DOR amending the grant application to endorse shared service training, to endorse a shared service training opportunity between Plympton and Halifax.
Okay, I had,
Oh, and Noel is spelled wrong.
yeah.
Primary Noel.
Well,
Knoll, no W.
Oh, no, W.
Updates and disclosures, COI, I didn't know what that meant, so spell it out, whatever it is.
Certificate of insurance.
Okay.
Just spell it out.
Where's that?
He wants that spelled out, certificate of insurance.
And then on the second bullet on page 2, advertisement for highway, I wasn't sure what we were saying there.
Town administrator, those were her reports.
So,
She just talked about the advertisement for the employment opportunity. for the
okay,
highway.
so discuss advertisement for highway superintendent position,
Or working on advertisement for...
whatever, yeah.
Okay, something. Okay,
Discuss?
discuss.
And then under correspondence, police chief commendation, I think we ought to say who was commendated. Because that was, I
Is that Cranshaw?
think so.
It wasn't Doug. I don't
I think it was
Doug
Cranshaw.
Brian Cranshaw?
So we'll have to go back.
Sounds
yeah.
familiar.
But we ought to have it in the
Yeah,
meeting, in the
we
minutes.
should.
That's it for me.
All right, so motion to accept the minutes of March 26th as amended.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Bree, I'll bring these all to you tomorrow, so we can go
Chicken
over
scratch pad?
the words
Tell them to
together.
bring them tight.
And we did approve
I like those marks.
the executive session for 3:26 tonight in our executive session, so we are current with everything.
Yay.
Yeah, Thank
Well
you, Bree,
done.
very much. Nice
Hold
job.
on, executive session was done
Yes.
for 3:26?
3:26, so we are
We are good to go.
good to go, as written. All right, so rants and raves.
Well, my rave is for all the volunteers who came forward for the fire committees. I think it's just indicative of how people care for this town.
All right, very good. I was going to do the same thing, that,
You can second it.
I absolutely second it, and we are so dependent on volunteers really to help us
Absolutely.
get the job done, and without you guys all coming forward, we would just be spinning our wheels, and it's not productive, and thank goodness we've got such a large group of people that are willing to help us, because this is a really big and important project that we're working on, so thank you very much.
And I think continuing in that theme, the earth removal meeting on Saturday, we were talking about oversight, and they'll dig into which it probably would be volunteers, and those volunteers, and all of us volunteers, and amazing that we get so much done in this little town. So,
Well, and giving up their Saturday to come in, because that's how important this is, that they were willing to come in and work through it.
either raking or working on the earth removal.
All right, anything else?
That's it.
All right, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night. See you next
Good night.
week.
Thank you.